Hey everyone, happy Thursday. We are live to celebrate a featured speaker here in our initial lineup for the Teach Better Conference happening October 14th and 15th of 2022. We are so thrilled to still celebrate that proposals are open, and we have almost announced the full lineup of the initial launch until we hunt through your proposals and hopefully welcome many of you to our speaker lineup as well. Kevin Butler is here with us. I know we're going to have a ball getting this conversation started. So feel free to share this feed. We'd love to see you in the comments, and we'll be right back for some good conversation.
So right now, I want to know if you're ready to teach better.
That's the whole mission of this weekend.
Just being here ready to learn and grow and come together like this is awesome.
What are those small changes that can make you better tomorrow than you were today?
All the amazing speakers we have here, wow.
So we have a ton of people here who are published authors, who are writing about education.
Let's get out there and teach better.
Hey everyone, we are live with featured speaker of our Teach Better Conference 2022, Kevin Butler. Kevin, how you doing?
Good. Happy Thursday. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited that I saw at the end of my day today that we got to talk shop. I know that you've had a long day working through so many different things. We're influencing your students and working with teachers, and I just appreciate you finding time to connect with our Teach Better family.
Anytime.
So fun. So we have officially announced as of last week that you are a part of our featured speaker lineup, which we were so excited to share with everyone. It was a hard secret to keep. If they're not familiar with the work you do, would you mind sharing a little bit about the work you do?
Sure. So I am currently a fifth grade teacher. This is my 19th year in the classroom. My first 11 or 12 years I taught in New York, out on Long Island at a public school. And then in around 2014, I was asked to come to California, Los Angeles, to help a startup school. I did that for a year, and then I decided no more snow for me. The 80 degrees sunny weather every single day kept me here. For 6 years, the last 6 years, I've been at an independent school here in the suburbs of Los Angeles. And next year, I'm starting something new. I have to keep it a secret for a little bit longer, but I am starting something new next year. So I'm still going to be in the classroom.
Yes. Well, it's always good to refresh your day-to-day routine and find something new. I'm excited that you're still going to be in the classroom working with students because you are, honestly, and I feel like I can say this with confidence, one of my favorite educators. So we need you to not only keep influencing students, but also keep impacting teachers. You are constantly sharing and wanting to better this field, and I really appreciate that about you.
No plans on leaving the classroom anytime soon, so.
Love it, love it. So Kevin, you were actually not only somebody who's a part of our lineup for our 2022 conference, which holy moly, this has been such a long time coming, but you also were a part of the lineup in 2019. So it's interesting, years later, to kind of be talking about the second year of this conference. What are your thoughts on 2019 and 2020 coming up?
I was actually on a Zoom with Jeff about a week ago, talking about some speaker things with Teach Better, and I talked a little bit about 2019. Best conference by far, that not just that I ever went to, but participated in. And I mean that. I'm not saying that just to say it. I tell people that all the time. I went to Ohio. It was the first time I've ever was in Ohio. Mm-hmm. Traveling alone. I didn't really know anybody. I knew some people from my social media, but no one personally. And within minutes of arriving, it was incredible. We have the balloon story, blowing up balloons, having fun. But what I tell people is I literally left there with at least a dozen people who I talk to on a regular basis now and are truly part. I know this sounds very dramatic, but it was life changing. A lot of things that started at that 2019 conference over the past 2 years have really helped me get to where I am now. So,
I really appreciate you saying that. It's so wonderful to hear that your experience was positive and good. And I vividly remember meeting you and connecting with you prior to the conference. And then I know that we have the joke about the balloons. Literally, guys, Kevin showed up the day before to help us set up, and he walked in, and I just like word vomited. I think I screamed at you. I was like, Kevin Butler, I know him. I follow him on Instagram. And it was so fun to have you there. We blew up 1.5 million balloons just for everyone at the conference to kick around the whole day. And I could not get over how kind you were, how authentic you were, how generous you were. And then truly, I can't believe, first of all, that you showed up to a conference not knowing anybody, because that is scary to do. But then I'm so thrilled to hear that you made, friends and fostered relationships after that point, because we never wanted to do a conference that was like a show up for a day, get something out of it, leave, and don't think of it again. So the fact that you've built relationships that you've kept even through a global pandemic that like warms me up. That's literally why I love my work. It's so fun.
It was great. And that word authentic, that's what it was all about. No drama. No one thought they were better or bigger than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And sometimes at teacher conferences, you get kind of that feeling a little bit. None of that at all at Teach Better. So I know we shouldn't wish our life away, but I'm counting down until October.
I am so thrilled to hear you're excited. I am very excited. And I promise when you walk in the doors, I might like look excited, but I won't yell at you again, because I really did just yell at you when you walked in. It'll be so fun. So Kevin, obviously we were creating our lineup. We knew that we wanted to invite you on to our initial launch. We've launched almost the whole lineup. We're announcing our final keynote on Monday, but we have 12 speakers who we knew were going to become like kind of the face of the event, really amplifying the work they're doing. You not only have always done great work, but you have incredible things in your future. And I think you were the most talked about session at the Teach Better conference in 2019. I was lucky enough to attend. Do you remember what you shared on in 2019?
Yeah, it was like the very beginning of like what the last 2 years have kind of morphed into. It was mostly about like creating classroom experiences and really the engagement piece. But I've honed that over the past 2 years into a book, actually, which then will kind of inspire the actual session. And I think my session was a little bit different. It's very hands-on. It's more of a workshop. It's not just me up there talking about engaging with your students. It's actually engaging with the audience, and we play the games and we do the activities, which is fun.
I remember it was a very, very long conference for me. The Teach Better conference is like a whirlwind. Your energy is like constantly high, and then you have these really low lows where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. Don't even think I can stand up. And I had a moment during your session where I was able to sneak in and sit down and experience all that you were sharing. And it was one of my favorite experiences because my body was dead. I couldn't move if I wanted to, but I was so engaged and enthralled with everything. Was decorated in the room. There was takeaways that every single member in your sessions were able to have. You were essentially like in the main room, the main stage, but you were in the back, projected on the back wall. It was the coolest thing. It was so fun. So fun. So I know that you're still planning for 2022. There's a lot you could share on, but tell us a little bit about the book that's coming out before the conference, so people will be able to get the book and get you to sign it at the event.
Of course. So the book is titled Lights, Cameras, Teach, a screenplay for engagement, culture, and relationships. And it kind of plays off of living in Hollywood and teaching in Hollywood. The very first part is just kind of like it's a memoir a little bit, just telling a little bit about who I am, where I came from, and how I got to where I am now. I spill a little tea about some Hollywood stuff that I've experienced. But I wrote it kind of like a movie script. So there's 3 acts into the book. The first book really is about like my number one passion, which is that engagement piece. So not only do I talk about how to do the engagement, but I give very like clear, directions and advice on how to do a lot of the activities that you may have seen me do on social media. I really emphasized on how to do it on a budget, which was really important to me, and how to differentiate it, that we have, all of these different types of learners, and it's not always that one size fits all, how you can do that. So it's kind of like a how-to to execute a lot of these things. And some of them are big and grand, and others of them are just simple and easy to execute. Like my goal when I speak at places is that I want teachers to be able to go back like literally the next day and be able to execute something that doesn't require any money and very little prep, because as teachers, we don't have a lot of money and we don't have a lot of time. So that's kind of my goal in that part of the book. Sorry.
I was going to say just something I really value, just to emphasize. Every single time I hear you speak, you have tangible action steps for teachers. I think it's what makes your sessions my favorite and so engaging, is because it's not just motivational, but it really does allow me to turn around and duplicate it. And I really value that about you. So please keep doing that. We love that.
The second part, Act 2, is really about classroom culture and how to kind of create a climate to create that culture. And without a climate, you're not going to have a culture. Really just to foster belonging in the classroom. I pull in some social emotional learning things in there too, and what I do on a daily basis to build those relationships with students. And then Act 3 really is about building relationships. That there are a lot of teacher books, and some people have that philosophy that sometimes it's easier just to shut our classroom door and just worry about what's happening inside our room. But that could be really lonely. And over the past 19 years, I've been in environments where I've had to do that. I've been in environments where I've tried not to do that. So it's really that idea of kind of comparing it to a director of a Hollywood movie, that a Hollywood director has to meet not just with the writers, but has to work with the actors and the stagehands and co-directors and producers, all of these people. And as teachers, we've got to open that classroom door, and we've got to really build relationships, not just with other teachers, but how do we connect with office staff, with maintenance staff? How do we connect with administrators, whether we like them or not? Like, that is part of our job. It is a two-way street. I talk about building relationships with parents as well. So I truly believe, and it does take a village. So I really just share ideas on how I do that, and how hopefully others can try those ideas in their own schools.
I cannot wait to read the book. I'm so excited. I know this is a project you've been dreaming up for a long time. You're publishing with DBC, who that I love. And I'm just I'm excited for the book, but I'm so proud that you are sharing this, because I know it's going to impact so many teachers. And then
the very last part, I got to really, because I was writing it during COVID. And then like the last part is kind of like the lessons we've learned from COVID. Ooh. And I think the last 2 years, we've all been through a really rough time, whether you're a teacher or you're not. We haven't been through the same experience though, but we've all been through a trauma. And I really believe it was a trauma, but I think we're at the point, and not everyone might agree with me with this statement, but it's time we move on. It's time for change. It's time to, what did we learn from this? How do we move forward? So I do talk a little bit about that it is, how do we get away from these past 2 years? There's been a lot of negativity, even on social media. We've got to be part of the plan on how to fix it. Yeah, I think we all can agree that, schools need to be fixed. They're antiquated. There are a lot of problems. They're broken, but we've got to reclaim our own passions, and we've got to be part of the solution to fix it.
I love that mindset. Being a part of the solution, I think, is really powerful.
And there are things that we can do. From little things in the book I mentioned, like getting out and voting, and not just for the presidential election, but like your Board of Ed members, and your local, municipality. Like, get out there and vote for people who support things that you believe in. It takes a village again. So.
Do you have a favorite section of the upcoming book that you can give us a little preview on? I know it's really careful because you can't say too much about it until it's out for everybody to experience, but any tidbit you can give us? Like a favorite part, or a favorite, even just your experience writing it, if you're willing to share.
My favorite part is, so there's 2 little bonus sections in it. One, I have 16 educators from around the United States who've added what they've been doing in their classrooms. But then I have 12 of my former students who wrote little things about what, not about me, but about what they think makes a good school and a good classroom. So hearing them is probably my favorite part. And last June, I tell this story quite a bit, so I apologize if anyone has already heard it. But every year, I go back to my former students' high school graduation. So last year was my last group of fifth graders to graduate 12th grade out of New York. They were an extra, like, special. We're not supposed to have favorite classes, but they were definitely on the top end of the favorites. And due to COVID, I couldn't get to graduation. They were only letting like blood relatives in. I was already in New York. I'd already thought I was going to be able to attend, but at the last minute, as we've known, things change all the time. So I just put out on Facebook, like, any parents of former students who I still keep in touch with, I'm so sorry I can't get to graduation, but I would love to still see the kids. So within like hours, parents had like notified all of these kids. The kids like organized a lunch. They had a half day. And it was so funny. It's June in New York, so it's like 80 degrees. It's beautiful out. They had a half day of school. They're ready to graduate in a day. I make a reservation at the local diner, thinking like, oh, I made a reservation for 25 people. And I'm like, oh gosh, I might be the only one sitting at this huge table. Like, is anyone actually going to show up to see their old fifth grade teacher that they haven't seen, some of them in 7 years? Every single kid came back. And just like watching, some of them I have kept in touch with, but some of them I haven't gotten to see in quite a while. And part of that lunch, I just like sat back at this huge table in the middle of a diner out on Long Island. And it was like, I just listened to them talk. Like, I wasn't involved in the conversation, but it was like, this is what it's all about. Like, they were talking about things that we did, 7 years ago. And of course, I would love that for them to be talking about like the fraction lesson or the social studies lesson that I did. But it was all of these tiny little things that I have certainly forgotten about, but none of them did. And they were so honest too. Like, some of them had not spoken to each other since they were in that fifth grade classroom. Like, just, you go to middle school, you go to high school, you get new friends. Like, oh, we might have passed each other in the hall. But here they are, like, all back together and reminiscing, and it was just really magical. And I write about that in detail in one of the chapters of the book. I don't think we understand sometimes as teachers these little things that we do mean so much to kids.
I am so excited to pick up a copy of the book. I'm so excited to hear you speak at the Teach Better Conference 2022. I cannot wait for us to all be together again as an internal family here, and then to continue to foster those relationships as well. I so appreciate the work you do, Kevin. I'm so excited to have you at this very special event. Before we wrap up here for our conversation, I do have to tell you, I had a lot of Teach Better family members that were very excited to see that you were not only attending the conference, but coming live today. They're like, I can't wait to catch the replay. And they were adamant I had to ask you about Kelly Clarkson. So this is me asking. I don't want to receive any mean direct messages from anyone in the Teach Better family that I didn't ask. And that's happened, I think, since we've seen you, because it was during COVID. So it was after the Teach Better 19 conference. Will you just give us a little preview? People have to go look it up.
Sure. Yeah, if you Google it, like Kevin Butler, Kelly Clarkson, you could find it quite easily on YouTube. But yeah, during the COVID crisis, when we were like total shutdown,
right?
Every year I love houseplants. You probably can see some of them behind me there. And every year in class, I always like grow plants with my students, and we create this little garden. That happened that was going to happen the week after COVID shut us all down, and I was determined that was not going to not happen. So I created all of these little bags with all the materials that they needed so they could plant the garden at home. And I had to go to each of their homes, and our students come from a 15-mile radius, and that doesn't seem too far, but in Los Angeles, that's hours of traffic sometimes. Luckily, because of COVID, there wasn't a lot of traffic, but I zigzagged my way throughout Los Angeles. I delivered all of these bags, and it was great to see the kids. And then it was on social media. Someone from the Kelly Clarkson show saw it, and they had direct messaged me on Instagram, but we all sometimes get these DMs that we're not quite sure are they real or not, but I did respond, but I was a little bit hesitant. But it was a producer. It turned out to be the real deal. They loved the story. It went on for a couple of weeks. Again, it's like Hollywood, so you might be on, you might not be on. We're going to see what's happening. Also, COVID was happening, so they were filming remotely. It was a lot of things in there. But to make a long story short, she did have me on the show. She was super nice. She surprised me. Like 3 of my students showed up with their parents. They did like a little trivia game. And then she gave me this incredible trip to Mexico that I was actually finally able to go on this past summer. She is incredible. She was just so kind. Her mother was a former teacher, so she has a love of teaching and teachers. So
I think it's so wonderful when teachers are celebrated. And obviously there's so many ways to celebrate an educator, but so fun to see you featured in such a wonderful way on a TV show that I know so many people get to tune into every day. So fun. Hopefully all of you that if you haven't caught that, definitely go search it out. And Kevin, it was like some really fun, humorous moments, but also some very special moments that they were able to capture on camera, which was so fun. So
my dad was very excited. My dad lives in North Carolina. I think he had an entire neighborhood like you were watching of it.
So fun. Well, Kevin, we are so appreciative that you are coming to the Teach Better Conference in 2022 this October. Proposals are open for another week. They end at the end of the month. So you literally have like a week and 2 days until our proposals close. And then registration obviously will continue to be open until we sell out. I'm really excited to see who else will be joining the incredible lineup that you have helped us kick off. So thank you so much for being a part of this event. I know our community is so excited to see you.
My pleasure.
Wonderful. For everybody here, please make sure you get all the conference details over at teachbetterconference.com. You can see all the different ways to get involved, including sponsorships, Podcasters Row, submit a proposal, kind of all the things. So definitely go check that out. We also have featured Kevin, obviously, on that website. So you can go and click through his social media to make sure you're following him. Kevin, will you share a little bit? Where are you on social media? How can they get connected?
Sure. I'm more of an Instagrammer than a Twitter person. So it's just at the Kevin J. Butler on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those things. I keep it easy. And then the website is www.thekevinjbutler.com.
You can connect with Kevin all over our website, including our speakers network. So you definitely will not have a hard time finding him. But Kevin, I really appreciate all that you do for our Teach Better community. And we're so excited to have you at the conference. So thank you for joining me live.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
Yes, for everyone else, have a wonderful Thursday. And we will see you bright and early tomorrow morning with Brad Hughes on the Daily Drop-In. Bye, friends.
Bye.
So right now, I want to know if you're ready to teach better.
That's the whole mission of this weekend.
Just being here ready to learn and grow.